You might be about to yawn right now, just from reading the word. If you are, your brain just did something remarkable, and it has almost nothing to do with being tired. The explanation we all grew up with, scientists tested it. We were wrong. What is actually happening is stranger, more specific, and honestly, more flattering. Because it might say something about who you are. You can try to suppress it, jaw clenched, lips sealed. The urge builds until it wins, every single time. So what is actually going on up there? What a yawn is actually doing. Here is the version of yawning most people grow up believing. Your brain runs low on oxygen, so your body takes a big gulp of air to compensate. Clean, simple, intuitive, and almost certainly wrong. Researchers tested it directly. If low oxygen triggered yawning, then breathing pure oxygen should reduce how often people yawn. It did not. Elevated carbon dioxide, which the theory predicted should increase yawning, also did nothing measurable. The oxygen theory has been around for decades, and it does not hold up. So what is a yawn actually doing? The leading theory, developed by researchers including Andrew Gallup at Princeton University, is that yawning is a brain cooling mechanism. Your brain is extraordinarily temperature sensitive. Even small increases affect cognitive performance. When brain temperature starts to creep up, a yawn draws in a rush of cooler ambient air. That air passes through the nasal cavity and the blood vessels in the face and helps reduce the temperature of blood flowing to the brain. Gallup's team tested this on 160 people in Tucson, Arizona, measuring yawning frequency in winter versus summer. In winter, when the air was cool enough to actually cool the brain, nearly half of participants yawned. In summer, when outdoor temperatures approached body temperature and the air offered no cooling benefit, fewer than a quarter did. The season was not the variable, the temperature was. A separate experiment from the same group found something even more striking. When participants were asked to breathe only through their nose, which routes air through a longer passage with more efficient heat exchange, contagious yawning essentially stopped. 0% of nasal-only breathers yawned in response to yawning videos. The group breathing through their mouths yawned at a rate of around 48%. Block the cooling mechanism. The trigger disappears. Your brain built this response on purpose. Think about when you yawn most, waking up. Your brain is shifting gears from sleep to wakefulness. Before bed, your brain has been running for hours and the thermal load is built up. Sitting through a 3-hour Teams call that could have been an email. Your cortex is running hot in a room full of people exhaling warm air. The timing of spontaneous yawning is not random. Your brain is reading its own temperature and calling for a hard reset. Why it spreads? Now, here is where it gets weird. A yawn makes sense as a reset button for one brain. But why does watching someone else yawn make your brain decide it needs one too? That is the part scientists are still working out, and what they found surprised pretty much everyone. When you see someone yawn, brain imaging shows activity in regions associated with imitation and social behavior, particularly areas linked to the mirror neuron system. Mirror neurons are cells that fire both when you perform an action and when you watch someone else do it. A 2012 fMRI study published in Brain Imaging and Behavior found that watching yawning faces activated the right inferior frontal gyrus, a region of the mirror neuron system, in a way that watching neutral faces did not. Your brain does not just register that someone else is yawning, it simulates it, like running a pirated copy of their experience. And sometimes that internal simulation is vivid enough to trigger the real physical response. But here is the part that changes the whole story. Contagious yawning is not just imitation. If it were, seeing any mouth movement would do it. It does not. The contagion is selective in a very specific way. It tracks emotional closeness. Research published in PLOS One, analyzing 109 adults across different relationship types, found that contagious yawning occurs significantly more often between people who are emotionally close. Family members, close friends, romantic partners. The closer the relationship, the stronger the contagion. Strangers trigger it much less reliably. Researchers controlled for gender, nationality, social context, and yawn characteristics. Only the emotional bond remained as a significant predictor. The pattern held across Europe, North America, Asia, and Africa. Dogs catch yawns from their owners, not from strangers, not from the vet, not from the neighbor who gives them treats, from the specific person they are bonded to. The emotional bond, not just the visual stimulus, determines whether the contagion fires. Chimpanzees show the same pattern. Studies from Lund University in Sweden tested 33 orphaned chimpanzees and found that juveniles aged 5 to 8 catch yawns from familiar humans. Infants do not. Susceptibility developed gradually, in exactly the same window that empathy-related behaviors emerge. The yawn contagion and the capacity for empathy appear to come online at the same time, in the same species, at the same age. You cannot easily dismiss that as coincidence. What it says about you? Here is the detail that makes this personal. Human children do not catch yawns until around age 4. Before that, seeing someone yawn does nothing. Then, Somewhere around the time a child begins to understand that other people have separate inner experiences, feelings, and perspectives of their own, the contagion switches on. Researchers call that cognitive milestone. Theory of mind. The timing of when contagious yawning appears lines up with it so closely that many scientists now treat the two as deeply connected. What about the people who seem completely immune? Same energy as the person who watched Titanic and said they saw it coming. A 2017 review in Neuroscience and Biobehavioral Reviews looked at the full body of evidence and found something the popular narrative tends to skip. The empathy link is real, but it is messier than the headlines suggest. Visual attention matters. If someone is not directly looking at the yawner, the contagion does not reliably fire, and social inhibition is a huge confounder. Some people feel self-conscious yawning in front of others and physically suppress the response. The neural trigger still fires. The yawn just does not make it out, which means the person in your meeting who never seems to yawn may simply be very good at hiding it. There is one more finding that is hard not to find a little amusing. How susceptible you are to contagious yawning peaks around close family, weakens around acquaintances, and drops significantly around strangers or people you distrust. Your nervous system is, in a very literal sense, more open to the people it considers safe. So the next time someone yawns near you and you feel it coming, pay attention to who it is, because the research suggests it matters. The oxygen theory we all learned is wrong. The real answer involves brain temperature, ancient social wiring, and a capacity for empathy you share with dogs, chimpanzees, and the 4-year-old who just figured out that other people have inner lives. Measurable, repeatable neuroscience. Sitting inside a reflex most people dismiss as embarrassing. The next time you catch yourself reaching to cover your mouth, give your yawn a little more respect. If this one got you, and there is a good chance it did, give it a like and subscribe to Fact Found TV. We cover the science behind one everyday thing, every single week. Tell us in the comments what you want us to cover next, and we will see you in the next one. Try not to yawn.